Megan Bird, please.
Good evening. First, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that took the time out of their busy schedules to come and present all the department budgets. I realize some of them, that's part of their jobs to present, but a lot of them were actually volunteers, and I know it's hard to do that. I attended actually all of the meetings this year, every single one of the Board of Ed meetings, as well as every single one of the Joint Town Council and Board of Finance meetings, and I learned a lot, and I was very impressed with particularly the volunteers who were coming forward. But as you all know, I'm a very big proponent of the Board of Education and its budget, and I work hard to see that they have everything that they need. The Board of Education worked very hard and made some tough decisions before their budget was even brought to this table. They had already reduced what the superintendent had asked for by, if I'm remembering correctly, over $400,000, probably close to $500,000. What he had asked for was long and thought out by all of the department heads underneath him, all of the administration in every single school, their facilities department heads, all of those. They all presented to the Board of Education as well. They went through 4 nights of presentation similar to we had here, and it was very well presented. I hope you all watched it if you weren't, well, actually, I know most of you weren't there. For those, I hope you watched them if you weren't there, because there was a lot of detail that you missed out on if you just listened to the hour and a half or 2 hours that they had here to present to you all. Those cuts that were already made were tough to make. We lost an administrator position, a vice principal position at Sarah Noble, which my kids will feel next year personally, and many, many other kids for years to come will feel. They did add a director of special education, which is well needed, but they cut a position that was also needed, that was hoped for, a hopeful position, a director of curriculum. And these cuts are not something that we can continue to make year after year after year and not fund the budget year after year after year and expect the quality of our education to stay the same. We fund very little compared to other towns in this state. We're at the bottom of the state, bottom 20 towns of the state in terms of per pupil cost, and we do an excellent job with it. We're middle of the pack. We're not at the top. We could be at the top if we chose to fund it more, but we're not. Middle of the pack is okay. Middle of the pack is not going to continue if we continue to fund our budgets at less than a 1% average. It just doesn't work that way. I also feel that the people of the town have a right to vote on the budget as the Board of Education deemed it necessary. So I'm urging you all to reverse the decision of the mayor and put back the almost $250,000 that he removed from the budget. I feel that the Board of Education works hard. They work intimately on a daily basis with their budget. They know exactly what goes into it every single day. And they know what they need. And if they're telling us this is what they need, then this is what they need. And I think that as a town, we have a right to vote on that, especially given the new charter where if one side fails, the other one doesn't necessarily fail. I think that it means that we need to let the town make that decision. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say for tonight, except that, again, I really want to thank everybody that did take the time to come and present their budgets because it was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Amy, 10 Chatfield Road, please.
Come on, you don't want to try the last name?
I'm sorry, I'm going deaf.
It's Amy Fotopoulos, 10 Chatfield Road.
You wanted me to pronounce that.
Oh, I mean, you could
Okay.
just try. It's fine. I also, like Megan, wanted to request that you please return the funds that were taken out of the Board of Ed budget and put that budget up for the town to vote on. Like Megan, I also attended several of the Board of Ed meetings, although not everyone. And I also thought that the budget that was put forward was fair and adequate. I also saw that some of the positions that were initially put in the budget were reduced in order to bring forward a budget that felt like a good fit and felt like it would be adequate. I do feel that with 2 kids in the school system, with the things that I've seen in their classes and in their schools, that any further budget cuts would be felt hard. Class sizes, teacher retention, and quality of education, I think, would all suffer. So I'm urging you to please allow the town to speak through their vote and allow the town to vote on the budget that the Board of Ed put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Greg Mullen, please.
Hi, Greg Mullen, 39 Meadowood Drive. Honorable Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to thank our mayor for making these hearings available to the public and thank Mike Sanello for making it possible. I think John Whitman of the Sewer Commission gave an outstanding presentation, and I hear our police chief did a great job as well. I didn't have a chance to look at everything, but I'll go back and I'll watch because I'm certainly interested. I love watching these hearings because I always learn something about how our town operates and the people that work for us. I also learned how much time and talent our volunteers give on behalf of our town, not the least of which is our town council, our Board of Education, and countless others. As our mayor points out, volunteers are the backbone of our community. Have not had time to watch every presentation, but I did catch a couple of items that drew my attention. I'll talk about two. Please forgive me if you are affected by my comments, as they are not meant to single out any group or individual. One, as far as I remember from last year, the Economic Development Corporation was given what I thought was to be a one-time seed money. In my opinion, $100,000 for an Economic Development Corporation investment officer does not belong in our town budget. The corporation is billed as a self-sustaining nonprofit organization. If that fact is true, then they need to be treated like other nonprofits and apply to our nonprofit committee. The town planner was fulfilling the role of liaison between the Economic Development Office and the corporation and helping various committees. In these lean budget times, the new town planner should continue in that role. Number two, Liebe Furman of the Economic Development Corporation and the Riverfront Revitalization Committee spoke in part on behalf of the Economic Development Office and asked for $18,600. I believe $14,000 of that belongs in the Parks and Rec budget, especially since maintenance will be their responsibility. I think most of those items that make up the $18,600 are reasonable, but many of those items appear to be items that could be donated by local businesses or organizations. One item that is a concern to me is $4,600 request for Riverfront Revitalization Committee Secretary. I do not believe they should be treated any differently than any other volunteer committee for the town that have requested funds for professional services and secretarial services that have been denied because of budgetary concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Jeff Winter, please.
Hi, Jeff Winter, 22 Morey Road. If you guys can turn to your budget books, page 57. It's the last page of the summary of the town expenditures. The chart that I just handed you refers to three particular items on that page, and it's interesting that we talk about the town budget being $8,000 less than last year. Well, actually, the town budget, depending on how you look on it, is either started at a point $1.3 million less than last year, or nearly $2.2 million less than last year. That's because debt service of $1.322 million went away. That's gone. On top of that, there was over $500,000 in capital for the finance office that is no longer an expense for this year, and over, I believe it was $340,000 for the assessor's office in terms of capital is no longer needed, or it's already been spent. So if you think about it, this budget started from a point over $2.1 million less than last year. So there really wasn't a lot of cutting. In fact, you could look at it and basically say we have increased spending on the town side by $2.1 million, which is 5.6% growth. Okay, and I'm not talking about needs for capital equipment, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about debt that fell off, paid off part of the paying off of the high school, finance office capital that has already been taken care of, and assessor's office capital is already taken care of. So essentially, again, the town has increased spending by almost $2.2 million, a 5.6% increase. You can get nitpicky and look at other things, but those three particular things on that page in front of you, on page 57, speak volumes. It's not the school increase that's the problem. It's the town increase that's the problem. If you look at the tax savings that should be coming to taxpayers, there's a minimum of $1 million that could probably be saved. So when you're talking tonight about where you're going to look at, where you're going to cut, you better be looking hard at the town. Because again, you have increased spending by almost $2.2 million. And regarding the Economic Development Corporation, I very much agree with Greg Mullen in that we were told specifically last year that it would be self-sustaining. But beyond that, I don't mind giving money to the corporation that is going to be specifically designated to help businesses. But the community investment officer, whose salary was supposed to be going in there, really does a lot of work for the town. And that person is also on the town health benefits, et cetera, et cetera. That person should be employed within the structure of the town, not the Economic Development Corporation. Same thing, since the Economic Development Director is going to be paid by the town, so should the Community Investment Officer. And on top of that, they should have applied as a 501c3 to the, I apologize, the annual nonprofit funded committee and this particular agreement that was drawn up. I assume they didn't do that, yet we know that they have the documentation because they have filed at least past records with the Secretary of State's office.
Jeff, I've given you 4 minutes. You can wrap it up, sir.
Sure, no problem. So I really think that it's important also that we keep a tight rein on the Economic Development Corporation because they've changed the bylaws and now it's like a club. It's not a serious membership. There are no bankers on the board of directors anymore. And that was specific as to how we, and I say we because I was one of 5 people that helped put that thing together. There are no bankers on there. We have dropped significantly in terms of manufacturers. It's now basically a club. Let's get serious about economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Alison Seidel, please.
Hi, good evening. I know there are a lot of issues that you need to be considering tonight, and I would just like to, oh, sorry, I forgot. Alison Seidel, 20 Skyview Drive. I know there are a lot of issues you'll be considering tonight, and I just wanted to add a quick comment regarding the Board of Education budget. I've been a resident of New Milford for over 15 years, and I have 2 children in the public schools, one at Sarah Noble and one at Schaghticoke. And I'm also a clinical psychologist in the community, so I have different perspectives on education, and I am really concerned about the idea of cutting more money from the budget. When I initially heard that there was an administrator who was going to be cut from Sarah Noble, I couldn't imagine what that was going to be, what that would mean for the day-to-day operations of the staff and the children there, because as far as I can tell, every single administrator there is desperately needed and probably more so. So I am really urging you to not make further cuts, especially in the amounts of $250,000 because that could really provide a lot of needed supports to the children in the community. The teachers in our district, as I'm sure you're well aware, are paid a lot less than in neighboring communities. We are losing teachers, and the last thing that we want to do is give teachers another reason to look elsewhere when the experienced and skilled teachers that we have are really needed here. And I also see from a clinical perspective, the children whose needs are so great that they need to seek either a psychological evaluation or psychotherapy. And there are a lot of those children in this community, as there are in many communities, but taking money and resources away from the school system is not going to meet their needs in any way. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Allison. That's the end of the list, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Anyone from the council?
Yes.
Ms. Francis?
Yes.
Ms. Francis?
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor. I'd like to move to approve the following reductions in the New Milford budget. Reduction in town expenditures from the mayor's proposed budget from $39,050,775 to $38,961,855 for a total reduction of $97,431 compared to last year. I also move in town revenues other than taxes of the mayor's proposed budget from $21,934,990 to $21,511,638 for a total reduction of $1,058,816 compared to last year. I move a reduction in the Board of Ed expenditures against the mayor's proposed budget of $393,795 to $63,640,692 for a total increase of $630,106 compared to last year. Adjustments, as you have in front of you there, are as follows. On the town side, an increase of $32,394,000 for pilot colleges and hospital grants, an increase of $205 for Pequot Gaming.
This is the revenue side?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I said that. An increase of $67,420 on the Muni revenue sharing, increase of $55,522, that's town aid roads, a reduction of $9,664 against LoSiP. The numbers will provide to everyone after. An increase of $14,648 in lieu of taxes to state-owned property. An increase of $12,000, which will be rental of town property through the Housatonic Probate Court. An increase of $22,500 on the police account. There's a donations for the high-risk navigator. A reduction of $444,831 under the Board of Ed for consolidation of ECS grant. A reduction of $173,546 under Board of Ed for teachers' retirement system contribution. That's a total reduction of $423,352 in the town revenue. On the expenses on the town side, a reduction of $2,700 for duplicating expenses, a reduction of $97,771 on the legal account for legal personnel, an increase of $22,500 in the legal for other legal expenses, an increase of $30,000 in the legal account for legal retainer, a reduction of $477 against fringe benefits for FICA, a reduction of $112 for fringe benefits under ER Medicare, an increase of $75,000 in the police account for the high-risk navigator, a reduction of $3,250 under the police account for training overtime, a reduction of $5,000 in the police account for telephone and computer, a reduction of $29,680 under the fire department for Lanesville substation, reduction of $2,000 under the tree warden stipends, reduction of $5,000 public works, education and training, reduction of $15,000 public works, vehicle and equipment maintenance, reduction of $160 commission on aging overtime, an increase of $3,000 commission on aging materials and supplies, a reduction of $4,100 against commission on the arts under the consultant line, reduction of $1,500 commission on the arts under the gallery purchases and expenses line, reduction of $200 park and rec for the AFSCME overtime, reduction of $3,000 park and rec under the contractual line, reduction of $15,000 in the economic development office on the personnel line, an increase of $85,000 economic development office for marketing and contractual services, a reduction of $21,600 on the economic development office for community services. This is Riverfront, the Loop. We're leaving $2,500 in there. You'll see that in the detail. Reduction of $85,000 economic development office. This is the annual town appropriation. Reduction of $2,840 on commission on aging capital. This is for vehicles. A reduction of $10,000 under computers, town hardware, this is under the key fob line. This is a total reduction of $88,890 in total town expenditures. On the Board of Education side, a reduction of $753,103 in total Board of Ed expenditures.
Second.
Any discussion?
How long are we gonna be here? Let's start at the top. Katie, you presented it. Let's go from the top and go down.
Start with the town side.
Revenue adjustments, finance office, 32,394, Pilot Colleges. What is that?
These items are from the state of Connecticut's budget ramifications to our budget. The gaming.
When did we get these numbers?
From the state of Connecticut.
When?
Oh, I don't know.
A couple
last
weeks
week?
ago,
Yeah,
Governor Lamont posted them.
it's his budget.
It's his proposed budget.
When did we get them? Town council members?
Well, we all went online and looked at it. As a council, and we go and do the research.
So it wasn't brought to the town council? You went and individually got these numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been in the paper, especially the ECS
Well, it's
numbers.
public information, I wouldn't
There's
think
current
that.
article, there was a
Come on,
registered
come on,
citizen
come on.
article. I mean, you go to the state
Paul,
of
come on.
Connecticut.
These numbers have to be public. That's why we're here for.
They are
That's why they're filming it. That's why people.
What are you
here.
talking about, Dr.
They are
Moore?
public.
This is Governor Lamont's proposed changes to
I
the
know
town
what
of
it
New
is.
Milford funding.
I know what it is. You don't have to explain to me what it is. I know
But you're
what
just
it
saying,
is.
how did you arrive at the number?
I'm talking about why it hasn't been presented here at the town council publicly. That's my point.
I believe you made mention of it. The mayor made mention of the reductions that would be needed based upon the state's cuts.
Governor Lamont's budget was after Pete's budget was proposed. Is that what you're referring to?
No. Why weren't these numbers brought out here in this forum?
We haven't had a,
Under what department?
As we were having our budget hearings, during the discussions.
What are you talking about?
I don't understand.
yeah, I don't know when we would have presented them. I mean,
Governor Lamont's
For the
budget
last-
came
for
out
the last
after.
week or so. These numbers should have been brought up.
So why didn't you? Anyone could have brought these up. This is publicly available information.
That's right, the mayor should have brought them up, you're right.
No, we're town councilmen, Dr. Mullen.
I know
It's
what we
incumbent
are.
upon
Stop
us
trying
to
to
do the
tell me what I
research.
am. I know what I am. I've been here plenty.
So you were not aware of Governor Lamont's proposed budget?
you're not here at all that he was cutting economic, the,
Excuse
education
me.
sharing.
I'm gonna go back to my same point. These numbers should have been brought up in a public forum. That is my point. And they should have been brought up before that.
So you don't remember all the budgets we've been through, where the state of Connecticut constantly changes our budget through the budget process that they propose. And then
Again,
typically, at the end of
I know all about
deliberations, we're going with the latest and greatest numbers that we have from the governor at that point in
These
time.
numbers were available a couple of weeks ago. They should have been brought up during
No, they weren't.
discussions.
They were available at the end of last week. That's when Lamont's
Somebody just
final
said-
numbers came out.
Somebody just said 2 weeks
It
ago.
was after Greg's presentation.
It should have been brought up. So we are receiving this much less money in education. We're 100% sure of that.
As sure as the governor could be in telling us.
These numbers may change.
Correct. I mean, if
suppose.
they change, we could probably adjust later.
Let's hope so.
But this is
So
what
the
we're doing.
lunacy in Hartford doesn't continue.
All right, let's go to expense adjustments. Katie, you want to explain?
You can tell, why don't you just say what you would like to know about, and we can all talk about it. This is a forum of everyone. What would you like
Let's
to
start
know?
with duplicating expense by the reduction.
Town side, $2,700 off their copying costs.
For the whole town?
For the whole town?
Are these copying costs for one
There's
department?
no department listed on here. So
Okay.
this belongs to, I would be probably the mayor, I don't know, your budget, I don't remember. I'd have to look
Duplicating
it up.
is
You want me
townwide.
to pull up each one of
Town hall?
these?
Did you
That's
say town hall?
townwide. It's townwide, town hall, yeah.
Thank you,
Town
Mayor.
hall.
97,000 legal personnel.
That is removing the in-house attorney.
Adding 22.5 for other legal expense.
That and, yes, that and the retainer will be to cover what associated things we'll need without having the town attorney. From our Kramer and Anderson, who we retain for other things. As in the past, Peter, as you remember. Before we had a town
What are you
attorney.
referring to?
Before we had a town attorney. Before we had Mayor Brownback brought one in, and before we had Matt.
Mhm.
We had Kramer and Anderson as our retained firm.
We still do.
Yes, so I'm
Right.
just saying, that's to make up, that 30,000 is to make up for a difference in things we might need to consult on that we would have done with the town attorney.
The next two is small. Police, high-risk navigator, what's that?
That is someone to help to coordinate between the hospital and the police department, high-risk opioid addiction, mental health issues.
So we're adding a person to coordinate that.
Not to coordinate that, to intervene. So when we have a homeless issue, when we have an overdose, so he'd be part of like a police overdose response team, so that when there's an overdose, this professional would get immediately involved to provide the proper treatment and detox to that person. He would assist people who have mental health issues who are randomly navigating through town to get the treatment that they would need. He would help our
He won't be a
homeless.
police officer though, right?
No. He would help our homeless population find stable housing and stable employment.
Is the 22.5 on the revenue adjustment, is that a grant from the state for that position?
No, that would be donations that would be raised to help cover the position.
Okay.
Michael, what was that? I missed what you
I
said.
was just wondering, there's a donations for high risk navigators.
Oh,
that's
up
all.
there, I got it. Thank you, Michael. Training, OT, telephone, computer. Lanesville substation, what's that about?
That's the item for the floor drains in Lanesville. They wanted to have a contractor come in. They have some degradation of the drain based upon salt, et cetera, and actually feel it's, I asked them if it was a want or a need, and they said it was a want. And I think they need to look for a couple of other prices on it. It's a very expensive for the scope of the job as we saw it, and so it's out.
When they spoke about that, I thought they were discussing that as also an environmental issue.
What's running out, he mentioned that things run out from the drain, and they've been doing that forever. And the salt that's running out is no different than the salt that all of us have anywhere. It's the fact that they want to put a separator in to separate out some oils from this briny water. It's not an emergency.
Okay. Stipends for the tree warden, what's that about?
Well, as you heard the mayor say, we now have the tree warden would actually be done by several, I think you asked, it was Emmons and Gentile. They will take over coordinating with our in-house from the Department of Public Works, tree supervisor, tree warden. So we've reduced that from, because we're not gonna have a per se stipend tree warden. It'll be a Department of Public Works person.
I thought we needed a tree warden per state statute, no?
Well, this
It can
is-
be housed within the department.
Right. It just
So-
has,
Other
they
towns
have
do
to be
that.
certified as an arborist.
No, they don't. They
Not-
just have
I'm
to
sorry.
know or take classes.
Oh, they don't have to be certified, I thought they did.
No.
So our tree warden is gonna be a person in the Public Works Department
Yes.
that's gonna take on their responsibility. And give them the
Yes.
title of tree warden or not give them the title?
I'm not sure about that. That's just the line in the budget, so that's where it ended up, but I'm not sure, that's up to the mayor and the Department of Public Works.
Okay. Two below that, vehicle and equipment maintenance, Public Works, we didn't have enough prior to
Pardon?
that? We didn't have enough in that line item before for, I mean, we have that line item every year, equipment maintenance, vehicle maintenance.
It's $15,000 and $5,000 reduction,
Okay. So they were asking for too much?
yeah?
Okay.
I think Lisa Heda pointed out it was a $50,000 average run rate under that.
Three-year average was quite a bump, so I talked to Mike Zarba today and asked him, what can you live with and what's not too risky? And he said he could live with a slight reduction in that line item. They've got a couple of trucks where the boxes are degrading because they put off maintenance, so would you need a little bit of a bump? Not the whole thing, though. And the same thing with education and training. He said that he can meet the safety and training requirements and take a little bit off.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Next one, personnel, economic development office, reducing 15,000.
What? Wait, Commission on Aging, where'd you go up to?
He skipped
Oh, those
Oh.
were small numbers, I
Okay.
skipped those. It's,
Yeah, they had asked last night in the presentation, actually, Mike Nahom, you could speak to this.
Well, they asked for the community investment officer, we asked for 100,000 to cover that salary. So it looks like that salary's being taken out. What's the 85 deposit? 85,000. That says market and contractual services.
That was what was switched from corp to director office, if I remember that right. We have 3 different ways to do it. So that our new economic development director will be able to have those funds to do what she sees fit for marketing and contractual services better there, allow her to use that.
So the amount going to the actual economic development corporation is
100 minus 85.
It's, was 100,000.
minus the 85, so
The
15.
85's going there, and the 15 is coming out of personnel.
So it's 15 going to the corporation.
No, it's coming out. Right.
And that 85 for marketing and contractual, that's going to the Economic Development Corporation?
Director.
No, the director, the Economic Development Office.
Looks like
Director's
it's being
office.
cut from the corporation.
It's coming out of the corporation and going for the new director to use.
So you know how people talk about in public comment about not sending the appropriation to the Economic Development Corp to the magnitude and the one-time promise with the community investment officer? So the reduction in 85 comes off the appropriation line, so not sending that money there, and letting the economic development director determine how to best spend that money and direct it to get the biggest bang for the buck.
And we don't need that 10,000 for the town hardware and software?
That's for the key fobs. Last night, when Kendrick, the IT director, was here, there's no plan in place. We have a key fob system in the Richmond building, that's one system starting. He's working on another one over at the probate building, that's another system. And there was $20,000 in there to begin a key fob system in this building. But there isn't any plan, and they're not all the same. We don't know that they're all gonna be the same. So they need a plan, they can phase it in, and that's why we cut out half of it. It's a lot of money for key fobs, when you don't know where they're gonna go.
Right. If you're gonna be reducing stuff, there's some other stuff that you should take out of the budget. If you wanna go to the 5-year fiscal plan,
5-year capital plan?
yeah, it says 5-year fiscal plan on capital. Page 48.
Yeah, I have a copy. Is this part of the discussion, Peter, or do you want to make an amendment to my motion, or are you just suggesting? You said there's some other things we should consider.
Yes.
So,
So I'll be glad to make an amendment to your,
well, I kind of have to make the amendment to my motion, but,
so then why don't we just discuss it, so you can then
Okay.
tell me you don't like the idea.
okay. No, I
Okay.
like to discuss it. I think others would like to discuss it too.
Discuss or discussed, one or the other.
Oops.
On page 48, under proposed new replacement equipment, the 5th one down, it says new tractor for guide rail mower attachment, 3-year lease. There's 120 in that first column. Can I just get clarification? Is that supposed to be 40 a year?
Sorry, Doc, what page you on?
Oh, I'm sorry, 48.
48, so the last page.
Thank you.
Under proposed new replacement equipment,
Or is it under this year only?
new tractor for guide rail mower attachment, 3-year lease.
No, that's for the outright purchase. I don't know why
Yeah,
it
it's
says
under that,
3-year
it's
lease.
under
Just the purchase.
2019.
Same thing
Well,
with the
I see it,
backhoe.
but it says 3-year lease next to it, so that's why I'm trying to get this
No,
clarified.
That's a
3-year
typo.
lease.
Same
Typo,
thing
I
with the
guess.
backhoe and
That's
same
fine.
thing
And
with
same for the backhoe, that's
six-wheelers.
another typo, somebody just copied something.
I'm sorry, hold on a second, backhoe.
And the 2 6-wheelers.
So those 3 lines are
Yeah, got
purchases,
it
not
there,
leases.
all right, all right. So those are typos. All right.
In that one.
My concern about this is when we voted back in September to buy this guide rail mower, it was never brought up, we actually needed another piece of equipment to make it work. And if that should have been brought up, that we needed another $120,000 to get this piece of equipment that we're purchasing to work. So I think that should be reconsidered, I think that should be taken out of the budget. 2 lines down, 38,000 GVW trucks with sander and plow. Due to the fact that the fiscal year 2021 and 21-22, the capital is much lower, we should do a 3-year lease on that. Actually, I wish that wasn't a typo.
So just to be clear, you're in favor of adding expenditures next year when all of our debt service will come on for the library project, the roads, the Sarah Noble roof, and the
I
high school
understand this
roof?
debt.
So you want to increase expenditures next year, knowing that our debt service will be increasing
Actually, I'd like
next
to
year?
decrease some more of these expenditures, Paul.
Okay. So I just
Right
want to
now.
confirm that. So you want to increase next year, knowing?
Stop the manipulation, Paul.
No, I'm asking.
You're manipulating the issue. If you want to just ask the question, ask it. Don't repeat it 4 times. Yeah, I'd like to see this as a 3-year lease.
So you want to see it increase?
I want to
next
see it
year?
as a 3-year lease. That's what I want.
Which piece is that?
The 120,000.
That would be,
The first item that you
no,
talked
no,
about.
not the
he was
first
looking
item.
at
I'm down to the trucks.
The trucks.
Oh,
No, that first item, I don't think we should, that should be
you
eliminated.
said you don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one, new tree bucket truck and equipment for $145,000. That whole concept of bringing that in-house, I would not go for that at all. I don't see how long-term, you're gonna take a crew of 3 or 4 people out of Public Works and put it on this bucket truck. You need another truck with a chipper to clean it up. You might need another truck for the logs that you're taking down. It's not 3 or 4 guys, it's 8. Do we have 8 people out of Public Works? We can take off drains and roads. If we have that many people we can take off and do trees, then I question why we have that many people in Public Works. So I would take that off. And I have a question, is the new chipper because we're getting a bucket truck? Or is a new chipper just because we need a new chipper?
Have you seen our existing chipper?
No, I don't hang out over there, Paul.
Okay, well, I took a tour of the Public Works Department, and I can assure you that their existing chipper needs to be replaced.
All right, so it's not for need of going along with a bucket truck.
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
So do you want the chipper as part of this list, Peter, that you want to remove?
Nope, I got the information.
Okay.
And we should not be taking that money out of Board of Ed. Education being reduced every year the way it is.
Well, we're not taking that. The state's the one taking it out.
We can make adjustments. So that's where I am. Thank you.
So I'd like to speak on the capital if I could. So first talking about the backhoe, the 1996 backhoe. It isn't just for the guardrail machine. It's actually for continuing to do our road work that we need to do, push back brush, clean up the sidelines so we can provide safety to our residents.
I'm sorry,
And it's,
let me just understand. Are you talking about the 96 backhoe or
Yeah,
the
did
new
you-
tractor?
did
Or the
you-
new tractor?
Are you talking about
You're
the,
talking about the tractor.
yeah, are you talking about the tractor before?
I was talking about the tractor, not the backhoe.
That's what you're talking about.
Right, the 1996 backhoe.
No, the one above it.
I'm talking about the tractor of the line above.
Okay, so for
I
the
just
new.
want to make sure I know.
Sorry, so the
what we're-
new, sorry, doctor. So for the new tractor,
Uh-huh.
that's gonna be not only for the guardrail,
Mm-hmm.
which right now, if we could get to it with our manpower, would take 3 people. With a guardrail tractor, guess how many? 1. I'm now saving 2 men to go do other work that's necessary and needed. This tractor here, when we replace it, the old tractor now will go to Park and Rec. They need a tractor to do all their work. So to me, this way out benefits any kind of letting it go to the next year or the year after. Because to do this year and to pay for it rather than leasing, we don't incur any future costs, and on top of that, we're not paying interest. We have the opportunity to pay it all at once. And in so doing, we're now allowing our workforce to be reassigned to different areas that help us beautify, just like you said, do drainage, do all the work necessary for our roads.
I mean, how much time do we actually have guys out there weed whacking around guardrails?
Not enough, that's why we're having the machine go out and do it for us.
It's a residential issue.
One of the main things I heard over the summer, when we had lots of rain, was it absolutely looks atrocious that all of this brush is going through these guardrails. What can we do to do it? I talked to the department, I talked to Mike Sarver, Public Works. What can we do as far as manpower? Pete, we're stretched out. You know, we had the microburst. On top of that, we're behind in our stuff. We have a certain amount of men. Also, those men take vacations in the summer, so we have a certain amount of manpower. So I said to myself, what could we do as far as technology to help us leverage the manpower we have and to make it so that we can use that manpower in more efficient ways? Guardrail, this machine goes right across it, cleans it all out, and it's only one guy. Can take it off, and then he can go put the other mower on and clean up along the other side with the other mower. So now we've got double the efficiency. That's why I put that in as a request.
Needing a new tracker to use that piece of equipment should have been brought up in September. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. As far as the dump trucks with sanders and plows, I think if we have the ability to pay for those up front, it saves us on interest costs.
And we need them.
And we definitely need them, Doctor. That's for
I'm
sure.
not saying we don't need them.
Right.
So don't say that about them. I'm not saying we don't need them.
No, I understand.
And the bucket truck?
And as far as the bucket truck, again, as I had presented when asked before, we have the largest canopy in the state. We have, as our people have told us in the tree business, you have the arbor ash issue going on, and you have trees that are aging. We don't have the budget to go out and pay contractors for all of the work. So the opportunity can arise to do what other towns do. Danbury has one. I believe Newtown has one now, a forestry division that can go out and do it. I spoke to our tree warden, who's fully in support of bringing the service into the department. And on trees that are specialized, that are high risk trees, obviously our vendors that we do hire would be able to do those trees. But it will allow us to do more trees per year, which we definitely are going to need as we continue to see the deterioration of some of our older trees.
I didn't see it in the budget money for an arborist in-house.
So
We're gonna need an arborist to run this bucket truck.
Absolutely not. In the state of Connecticut, you can just take the classes within a year and they become the tree warden. And you can remove dead trees without being an arborist. That's the state statute.
And speaking with our current tree warden, one of the thought processes is right now we have a budget of $200,000 for the trees. You could get a retired person that could come in and do work part-time to do it, to help along with this program. Once the program is up and running, our goal is, as the state of Connecticut, Governor Lamont is asking us to do, is to look at regionalization and all sorts of stuff. So one of the things that we're looking at is, once we get this together, is looking to ask our smaller town partners that are in different areas if they would like to partake with our forestry program that maximizes the return on investment for us, as well as return on investment for our smaller communities, such as we talked about with the brine machine, the same way. So we're leveraging the efficiencies, we're leveraging technology and machinery to get a better return for our taxpayer.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
Walter?
I have a problem with the tree warden situation too. If I read this correctly, we cut $2,000 from the stipend, which takes it down to $4,500, because we don't have an assistant tree warden. Originally stipend for the tree warden, $8,000, so that's $10,500. Mayor's recommendation, $6,000, takes it down to $4,500. Another cut of, $4,500. Another cut of $2,000 takes it down to $2,500. That will be the stipend. I'm not sure I agree with Councilman Szymanski about a state qualified tree warden. We have one right on the spot, right here in town, who's licensed, he's got the equipment. You're gonna put it in Public Works Department, and I think Councilman Mullen excuse me, Mullen is right. How many people are you gonna suck out of the Public Works Department to work on trees? You're down 2 people already in Public Works Department. Gonna make it thinner. Which, to me, the less you have as far as people working, it's gonna cut down on productivity.
So Walter, at first blush, that does seem that it could be that way. But for instance, as I said before, using technology and new machinery to help us leverage the manpower we have.
Well,
Because as we all know, the state is, as you see, is continuing to cut our funding. So for instance, using the rail system, right? That's only gonna be 1 guy versus 3 guys. As you know now, the pothole machine, currently our pothole machine, how we do things, takes 6 men to fill potholes. With the new machine we're getting, it's only gonna take 1. So that's gonna free up 5 men. 5 men to do some of these jobs. And to continue to
then
leverage that.
let's go to maintenance and vehicle and equipment maintenance. If you don't maintain what you have, it breaks down. We built the new high school because we didn't maintain the old high school at millions of dollars. So here we're now cutting out $15,000 for vehicle and equipment maintenance.
Can I actually speak to that one, Walter?
Sure.
So, because I did my analysis independently. I know none of you are surprised because I just like to know the numbers myself. And I looked at the 3-year historical averages for all the major categories. And then I took it upon myself to call a couple of the department heads where I saw some bigger potential. This particular item, DPW asked for 50,000 more than the running 3-year historical average. So I said, no, Mike, do you really need that? We're looking for every dollar we can. And we had a great conversation. He said with very little risk, he could take it down 15,000. So he's still increasing it over the 3-year average by $35,000. He felt comfortable with that.
Well,
I can give you that one. Just because he and I had a long conversation about it.
Maintenance to me is always important because it keeps everything top shelf and running. You know, the oil flows very nicely then. If you don't change the oil for, I don't know, 20,000 miles, 50,000 miles, something's gonna happen to the engine or that equipment because it's not fresh. It won't do what it's supposed to be doing.
Totally agree. If I hadn't talked to the department head and he actually agreed to that number, I would say,
Okay,
let's
well,
change it. But
if
he said
if
he was
agree-
comfortable with that.
Okay, then you have one, I would say you have one leg up. I got a new brace, by the way. You have one leg up on me because I did not talk to the department.
Well,
head.
I
But-
feel strongly about doing that.
Okay.
Walter, you're aware, right, that within this past fiscal year, 77% of the trees in the town of New Milford have been marked in-house by our department already?
I did not know that.
Okay.
I did not know that. So,
Lisa, I'd like to just confirm, you said you discussed this with Mike
Mike.
Zarba. So he wouldn't jeopardize, I have to say, Walter, I agree with you, maintenance is very important. Preventative maintenance.
preventative
Right?
maintenance.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's how we get to where we are in life. So if he's willing to say that he can cut this out and still keep things running, I mean, who are we to second
Well,
guess?
if he's comfortable with it,
I guess,
why
would you say,
would I
did you pressure him?
why would I argue with that then?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and again, I just want to say it in a different way. So this represents a $35,000 increase over the 3-year average. So there is a hefty bump in there, but you took it down from a $50,000 increase.
And you know, whether it's trees or vehicle maintenance, whatever the case may be, one of our mantras always is public safety. We're concerned about public safety. We're concerned about the general welfare. Absolutely. Speaking of which, why the Lanesville substation down 30,000?
That was the, to work on the concrete, break it up, put a separator in, a new drain to separate the oil. Said the drain had been compromised because of all the salt when they wash
Right.
off the trucks,
Right.
the stuff on the road. And that, he did mention that it runs out, but it's always run out of the building and through that pipe. There was a price there that seemed to be high based upon a couple of comments. Only one person gave a price, and I asked him the time they were here, presenting their budget, if it was a want or if it was an emergency, a need that we had to take care of, and it was not deemed to be an emergency need. So, doesn't mean it'll never get done, but it's just coming out now.
But it would also be nice to have a couple quotes, you know,
Yeah.
not just take the first
Right.
quote that goes by.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we can do it later. But it would be nice to have a comparison, at least have 3 quotes, just like any of us do for our houses.
Well, and that's common sense anyhow, Mike.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
I got no problem with that. Public education, I'm not even gonna go there. Public education is so handicapped with millstones because of what it is burdened with, whether you talk about mandates or transportation or salaries or insurance or special needs. I can't agree with the cuts to the Board of Education, and I will vote against those cuts. I am done.
For the Board of Ed, when the state does finalize a budget and that number is restored, that goes right to the Board of Ed? Or
No, does not.
Right?
Does the money go,
What-
the ECS money resides on the town side of the budget?
Yeah, but just to be clear, in my opinion, and I hope we have in agreement with everyone at the table tonight, that if the ECS monies are not reduced, the $444,831, that would then be used by the Board of Education. Yeah, just so everyone's clear.
Right. It's here on the tape. If you don't believe us.
the question that I guess the people in the gallery are saying is, how does it get back to the Board of Ed if it's not in the budget?
It'd be a transfer.
Mr. Lawson?
No, just a point of clarification. I was actually going to ask that myself, but just a point of clarification, if you'd indulge me. First of all, that was one question. As you know, these are proposed, the governor's proposed budget. There's no question about that. Those numbers are accurate from the proposed budget. But the legislative session is still doing the committee work, and the votes don't come probably with this budget. I'm going to go June, which is well after hours, but that's just something to consider. The only other point of clarification I'd like to ask is, at the bottom it says 753,103. Just how that, does that include the mayor's proposed reduction of 246, or is this on top of it, in which case that would be $1 million?
It's on top of it.
I'm sorry, David, you're asking what the bottom line, the Board of Ed is,
Does that include the mayor's proposed reduction?
no.
So it's $1 million.
This is an,
It's $1 million.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Against the board's proposal.
Okay. All right, that's just a plain clarification I wanted. And I also noticed
Just so that I'm clear, the Board of Ed is receiving a 1% increase? Is that right?
That's what's proposed, yeah, $630,106 more than the current year.
So from, just so that I'm clear, so from fiscal year 19 to 20, I can't think, what Katie had proposed, let's do it that way, is 1% increase from one year to the next. Is that right?
The original Board of Ed budget was 3.7% increase. The original Board of Ed budget was originally 3 point
2
something,
point.
No.
326.
and then the mayor's was
No, there's 2.
It was 2 point something.
The superintendent's budget is 3.26, what the board got, was what?
2.59.
And then the budget that the mayor suggested reduced it even further by 246,000.
It's made it
So now
2 point,
now you're reducing it
2.1, I
to
think.
what? So
Well, we're actually increasing it 1% from last year.
You're reducing the increase
That's not what but that's not what you're saying.
But I'm agreeing with you, you're reducing the increase that was
1%
approved by the Board of Ed.
from last
down
This
to
is just
1.
point of order.
Point of order,
Still
yeah.
debate with the
We can just
audience.
deliberate with the council
Within the
members.
I just had one more clarification, that's all. I just noticed on the agenda, there's no public comment this evening. And I was hoping.
Yes,
You're
there
supposed
was.
to
At the
comment at the
beginning.
beginning.
We're sitting
At the
here.
end?
No, it's in the beginning. This
Yeah,
warned at
no,
the beginning.
I was asking, I noticed on the agenda, there was no public comment after the.
Correct.
And I was hoping that the council members would consider amending the agenda to include that.
Well, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes, we still have a budget motion sitting there. Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Just so everyone's clear, this is for the amendment to your first motion, correct?
I didn't make any amendment to my
No,
first
there is no
motion.
Okay, so this is just for what your
This is the
recommendation.
motion that I read, and we'll do them independently if you'd like.
No?
You made the motion
So I made the motion,
Motion and second.
seconded as I had it, and that's
Okay.
what's standing.
Walter?
Dr. Mullen had made some suggestions. Was that going to be in the form of an amendment to the, no, okay,
You ever watch that show? This is what I got.
got it, okay.
So it's the original motion. And-
Yes,
Okay.
Do you want to do it in two parts?
The motion's
I
on
read
the
it
floor.
all together, so we'll vote all together. And if you like, Walter, I'll go, you have a copy of this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna vote on.
So all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Are we going to entertain any comments?
It's up to the council. If they would like to hear comment or adjourn. Did you make the motion, Mike?
The comments won't impact.
Right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.